The space station trembled as ships rushed to leave. Alarms rang through the metal halls. People ran with their bags, pushing past each other to get to the escape pods. Fear filled the air like a thick cloud. "He's coming," someone whispered. "Kazeth Vorn is coming." That name made even the bravest fighters shake. Kazeth Vorn was death itself. He was 9 feet tall with gray skin that looked like old metal. Sharp claws grew from his fingers like black knives. Scars covered his body, from head to toe. These scars glowed with a blue light that pulsed like a slow heartbeat. The Drakmori were born killers. Their homeworld was a place of endless fighting where only the strongest lived. But even among his own people, Kazeth was special. He was the perfect killer. No feeling, no mercy, no fear. His ship was called the Blood Talon. It was black as space itself and shaped like a giant claw. When people saw it on their screens, they knew their time was up. The ship had special engines that made no sound. It could appear next to you without warning. Kazeth had killed over 3,000 beings. He had hunted on 17 different worlds. His victims came from every known race in the galaxy. Humans, Zelkari, Thraxians, even other Drakmori who crossed his path. It did not matter to him. All life was the same to Kazeth. All life was meant to end. The Galactic Council had put a price on his head. 1 billion credits. It was the highest bounty in history, but no one had ever collected it. Every bounty hunter who tried to find Kazeth never came back. Their ships were found floating empty in space, covered in claw marks. Kazeth did not kill for money, though he took it. He did not kill for pleasure, though he felt none from it. He killed because it was what he was made for. His employers paid him well, but they were just tools to him, ways to find new prey. On this day, Kazeth sat in his command chair looking at a data pad. The blue glow from his scars lit up the dark cabin. His yellow eyes read the information about his next target. A human woman named Lisa Parker, 28 years old, systems engineer, lives on New Arizona mining colony. The job seemed simple. His employer, Vincent Kane, wanted her dead. Kane ran illegal mining operations across the outer rim. Lisa Parker had found something she should not have seen. Now she had to die. Kazeth studied her picture. She had red-brown hair and green eyes. She was smiling in the photo. Humans always smiled in their pictures. It was a strange habit. What did they have to smile about when death could come for them at any time? The Blood Talon moved through space toward the New Arizona system. Kazeth prepared his weapons. His claws were already sharp, but he made them sharper. His armor was already strong, but he checked every piece. His mind was already focused, but he cleared it of all thoughts, except the kill. New Arizona was a small colony on the edge of known space. About 5,000 people lived there. They mined rare crystals from the planet's mountains. The work was hard and dangerous. People died in cave-ins and equipment failures. It was not a happy place, but it was far from the main trade routes. Ships did not come often. News traveled slowly. It was a perfect place for someone to hide. It was also a perfect place for someone like Kazeth to work without being disturbed. The colony had basic defenses, a few patrol ships, some guards, energy shields around the main buildings. These things might stop raiders or common criminals. They would not stop Kazeth Vorn. He had studied the colony's layout for days. He knew where Lisa Parker worked. He knew where she lived. He knew her daily routine. She went to work at 7 in the morning. She ate lunch at noon in the cafeteria. She went home at 6 in the evening. She was alone most of the time. Kazeth did not understand why humans lived such ordered lives. His people lived by instinct and strength. They took what they wanted and killed what threatened them. But humans built schedules and followed rules. They made themselves easy to predict, easy to hunt. The Blood Talon reached the edge of the New Arizona system. Kazeth engaged his stealth systems. The ship disappeared from all sensors. Now he was a ghost moving through space. Death itself was coming to the little mining colony. Kazeth looked at Lisa Parker's picture one more time. Soon she would be just another name on his long list of kills, another scar to add to his collection, another step in his endless hunt. He put the datapad away and prepared to dock. The people of New Arizona had no idea what was coming for them. They went about their normal lives, thinking they were safe so far from civilization, but nowhere was safe from Kazeth Vorn. The hunt was about to begin. The Blood Talon docked at a small cargo port on the far side of New Arizona colony. Kazeth wore a long black cloak that hid his massive frame. His hood covered his scarred face. To anyone watching, he looked like just another traveler. The port worker who processed his fake documents never looked up from his screen. His hands shook as he stamped the papers. Something about this visitor felt wrong, but the man could not say what. He was glad when the tall figure walked away into the colony. New Arizona was built inside a series of connected domes. The domes protected the people from the harsh winds and toxic air outside. Inside, the air was clean and warm. Streets ran between buildings made of metal and glass. People walked to work, carrying lunchboxes and talking about normal things. Kazeth moved through the crowds like a shadow. His footsteps made no sound. His breathing made no noise. Years of hunting had taught him how to become invisible. Even when people looked right at him, their eyes seemed to slide away. He found a small room to rent above a bar. The room had one window that looked out over the main square. From here, he could watch the colony's daily life. More importantly, he could watch Lisa Parker. The engineering building was across the square. It was a white dome with big windows. Through the windows, Kazeth could see people working at computers and control panels. They maintained the life support systems that kept the colony alive. Without them, everyone would die in hours. At exactly 7 in the morning, Lisa Parker walked into the building. She wore blue work clothes and carried a coffee cup. Her red hair was pulled back in a simple style. She walked with quick steps like someone who had important work to do. Kazeth watched her through his scope. She was smaller than her picture showed, maybe 5.5 feet tall. Her movements were precise and careful. She checked each system methodically, making sure everything worked correctly. For 3 days, Kazeth studied his target. Lisa Parker was predictable, just like he expected. She arrived at 7. She worked until noon, then ate lunch in the cafeteria. She worked until 6, then went home to a small apartment near the colony's edge. But on the 4th day, something changed. An alarm rang through the colony. Red lights flashed in the streets. Over the speakers, a voice announced, "Cave in at Mining Site 7, all emergency teams respond immediately." Kazeth watched from his window as people ran toward the mining tunnels. He saw Lisa Parker come out of the engineering building. She should have stayed at her post. The life support systems needed constant monitoring. But instead, she ran toward the emergency. Curious, Kazeth followed her. Mining Site 7 was chaos. A tunnel had collapsed, trapping 12 workers inside. The rescue teams dug frantically, but rocks kept falling. The tunnel was not stable. One wrong move could bring down the whole mountain. "The support beams are failing," someone shouted. "The whole section could collapse." Jake Morrison, the colony's security chief, tried to keep everyone back. He was a big man with gray hair and worried eyes. "It's too dangerous," he said. "We need to wait for the heavy equipment." "Those men will die if we wait," Lisa Parker said. She pushed past the security barriers. "Miss Parker, get back," Jake called. "This is not your job." "Someone needs to shut off the power to that section," Lisa said. "If the electrical systems short out, they could start a fire, or worse." She was right, but the power controls were inside the unstable tunnel. Going in there was suicide. "I can do it," Lisa said. "The control box is only 50 feet inside. I know these systems better than anyone." Jake shook his head. "I cannot let you go in there." Lisa looked at the tunnel entrance. Rock dust filled the air. Strange creaking sounds came from deep inside. At any moment, the whole thing could come down. "Those are our people in there," she said quietly. "We do not leave our people behind." Before Jake could stop her, Lisa ran into the tunnel. Kazeth watched all this from the shadows. He did not understand what he was seeing. Lisa Parker was risking her life for people who meant nothing to her. Why? What did she gain from this? In Drakmori culture, this made no sense. You protected yourself and your family. Everyone else was competition or prey. But Lisa Parker was different. She put others before herself. The tunnel groaned and more rocks fell. Someone screamed that the whole thing was coming down. Jake Morrison cursed and called for more support beams. Minutes passed like hours. Then Lisa Parker came running out of the tunnel, her clothes torn and covered in dust. Behind her, the lights in the tunnel went dark as the power shut off. Now the rescue teams could work safely. "The power's off," she gasped, breathing hard. The men should be safe now. The rescue took 6 more hours, but all 12 workers came out alive. They were hurt, but they would live. When the last man was brought up, the whole crowd cheered. Lisa Parker sat on a box, exhausted. Her face was pale and her hands shook. She had come close to death to save people she barely knew. Jake Morrison brought her a cup of coffee. "That was brave," he said. "And stupid." Lisa smiled, still breathing hard. Sometimes brave and stupid are the same thing. Kazeth watched from his hiding place. He had killed thousands of beings, but he had never seen anything like this. Where he came from, weakness was death. But Lisa Parker was not weak. She was something he had never encountered before. She was kind. That night, Kazeth sat in his room trying to understand what he had seen. His mission was simple: kill Lisa Parker and collect his payment. But something had changed. For the first time in his long life, he hesitated. He looked at her picture again. The same green eyes, the same smile. But now he saw something different. He saw someone who would risk everything to save others. In his world, that made her prey. In her world, it made her a hero. Kazeth did not sleep that night. He stared out his window at the colony below, thinking about courage and kindness, and things he had never had to understand before. Kazeth spent 2 more days watching Lisa Parker. Each day his confusion grew deeper. She did small things that made no sense to him. She helped an old man carry his groceries. She fixed a broken toy for a crying child. She always smiled at people, even strangers. These acts served no purpose that Kazeth could see. Lisa gained nothing from them. They did not make her stronger or richer or safer. In fact, they often put her at risk. Yet she did them anyway. On the 7th day, Kazeth decided to end his mission. He had waited too long already. Vincent Kane would be getting impatient. Other killers might be sent if Kazeth failed to complete the job. That evening, Lisa stayed late at the engineering building. Most of the colony was already asleep. The streets were empty except for a few security patrols. It was the perfect time. Kazeth slipped from his room and crossed the square. The engineering building had basic security, but locks meant nothing to him. His claws could cut through metal like paper. His movements were silent as death itself. He found Lisa on the 3rd floor in the main control room. She sat at a computer, checking system reports. Charts and graphs filled her screen. She sipped coffee from a white mug and hummed a soft tune. Kazeth crept closer, staying in the shadows between the machines. His claws extended slowly, making no sound. Lisa had her back to him. She had no idea death was 3 feet away. This was the moment. One quick strike and his mission would be over. But Kazeth found himself frozen in place. Lisa turned in her chair to reach for a manual on the shelf behind her. As she turned, she saw Kazeth standing in the darkness. Any normal person would have screamed. They would have run or begged for mercy. Lisa Parker did neither. She looked up at him with curious eyes, not afraid ones. Her gaze moved slowly over his huge frame, taking in his gray skin and massive claws. When she saw the glowing scars that covered his arms and face, she did not look away in horror. "Your scars," she said softly. "They're beautiful." Kazeth felt like someone had hit him with a plasma cannon. In his entire life, no one had ever called any part of him beautiful. His scars were marks of failure. Each one showed a time when an enemy had wounded him. In Drakmori culture, scars were shameful things to be hidden, but Lisa looked at them like they were art. They glow like stars, she continued, still staring at the blue light pulsing under his skin. Like constellations in the night sky. I have never seen anything so amazing. Kazeth's claws wavered. His arm, raised to strike, began to shake. This small human woman had just destroyed everything he thought he knew about himself. Each one tells a story, Lisa said, standing up slowly. She showed no fear even though she was facing the galaxy's most dangerous killer. They must have hurt when you got them, but they're beautiful now. No one had ever spoken to Kazeth like this. His victims usually begged or cried or tried to run. They saw him as a monster, and they were right. He was death and darkness and everything evil in the galaxy. But Lisa Parker saw something else. Are you hurt? She asked, noticing how he held his arm strangely. You look like you're in pain. Kazeth was in pain, but not the kind she meant. His whole world was breaking apart. Everything he had believed about himself was crumbling. He started to speak, then stopped. His voice came out as a harsh whisper. He had not spoken to anyone except his employers in years. Lisa waited patiently, like she had all the time in the world. Like standing 3 feet from a killer was the most normal thing possible. I came here to kill you, Kazeth said finally. Lisa nodded like this made perfect sense. I figured that out. You're very good at hiding, but I've felt someone watching me for days. You knew I was hunting you? I suspected. Why do you want to kill me? The question was so simple, so direct. Kazeth found himself answering honestly. Someone paid me to. They said you found something you should not have seen. Lisa thought about this. Vincent Kane? Kazeth's eyes widened slightly. Lisa had figured out who hired him. I found records showing he's been stealing from the mining operations, Lisa said, taking the valuable crystals and replacing them with fakes. He's stolen millions of credits from the company and the workers. She sat back down in her chair, still looking at Kazeth with those strange, unafraid eyes. So he sent you to kill me, before I could report it. Yes. Are you going to kill me now? Kazeth stared at her. His claws were still extended. One swipe would end her life. It would be quick and clean. She would not suffer, but he could not do it. I do not know, he said. Lisa smiled at him. Actually smiled, like they were having a normal conversation instead of discussing her death. What's your name? She asked. Kazeth Vorn. I'm Lisa Parker, but I think you already knew that. She gestured to an empty chair. Would you like to sit down, Kazeth? You look tired. No one had ever asked Kazeth if he was tired. No one had ever offered him a chair. He stood there unsure what to do. I have coffee, Lisa offered. It's not very good coffee, but it's warm. Kazeth retracted his claws slowly. His deadly weapons folded back into his fingers. For the first time in his life, he sat down in a chair that someone else had offered him. Lisa poured coffee into a spare mug and set it in front of him. The mug was small in his huge hands. Why are you being kind to me? Kazeth asked. I came here to murder you. Everyone deserves kindness, Lisa said simply. Even people who come to murder me. That makes no sense. Maybe not, but it's what I believe. They sat in silence for a while. Kazeth sipped the coffee. It was terrible, like Lisa had said, but it was warm and someone had given it to him freely. Your scars really are beautiful, Lisa said again. Each one is unique, like snowflakes or fingerprints. Kazeth looked down at his arms. The blue light pulsed steadily under his gray skin. He had always hated these marks. But when Lisa looked at them, she saw something worth admiring. Why? He asked. Why do you see beauty where others see only ugliness? Lisa thought about this for a long time. Because beauty is everywhere if you look for it, she said finally. Even in dark places, even in scary things. There's always something worth seeing. Kazeth finished his coffee and stood up. Lisa watched him calmly. I should kill you, he said. Yes, you probably should. That's what you came here to do. But I cannot. Why not? Kazeth looked at this small, brave woman who had called his scars beautiful, who had offered him coffee and kindness, without asking for anything in return. Because you are not prey, he said finally. You are something else. Something I do not have a word for. He turned to leave, then stopped. Vincent Kane will send others, he warned. When I do not complete this job, he will hire different killers. Then I guess I better get that evidence to the authorities quickly, Lisa said. Kazeth nodded and walked toward the door. He paused at the threshold. Thank you, he said without turning around. For what? For seeing stars where others see only scars. And then the galaxy's most dangerous killer walked away into the night, leaving his target alive, and his whole world changed forever. Kazeth did not return to his ship. Instead, he found an abandoned warehouse on the colony's edge and made it his temporary home. For the first time in his life, he did not know what to do next. He had failed to complete his mission. In Drakmori, culture failure meant death. But Kazeth felt something strange inside him. Something he had never experienced before. It took him days to realize what it was. Relief. He was relieved he had not killed Lisa Parker. This feeling confused him more than anything else in his long life. Meanwhile, Lisa continued her daily routine, but she was not the same either. She found herself looking for Kazeth in the shadows, wondering if he was still watching her. Sometimes, she left a cup of coffee on the windowsill of her office just in case he was nearby. She also worked quickly to gather all the evidence against Vincent Kane. She copied files and recorded video messages explaining what she had found. She prepared to send everything to the Galactic Trade Commission, but Vincent Kane was not patient. When 3 days passed without word from Kazeth, he grew angry. Where is my confirmation? Kane demanded, over a secure communication channel. Why? Is Lisa Parker still breathing? Kazeth received the message but did not respond. He sat in his empty warehouse, staring at his glowing scars and remembering Lisa's words. Beautiful. Like stars. Like constellations. No one had ever called him beautiful before. Kane waited one more day, then made a decision. If Kazeth Vorn had failed, then Kane would handle the problem himself. He sent 5 of his best killers to New Arizona with orders to eliminate both Lisa Parker and Kazeth Vorn. The killers arrived on a small transport ship. They were not as skilled as Kazeth, but they were ruthless and well-armed. Their leader was a human named Marcus Bell. He had cold eyes and no conscience. Jake Morrison noticed the new arrivals immediately. As security chief, he tracked everyone who came to the colony. 5 armed strangers arriving together was suspicious. Run background checks on them, Jake told his deputy, and keep eyes on them at all times. But the killers were professionals. They split up and blended into the colony population. Marcus Bell took a room at the same inn where Kazeth had stayed. The others found jobs as temporary workers. Lisa felt the change in the air. People seemed more nervous. Workers looked over their shoulders more often. Something was wrong. That evening, as Lisa walked home from work, she noticed a man following her. He stayed in the shadows, but she could sense his presence. It was not Kazeth. This person felt different, dangerous in a cold, calculating way. Lisa ducked into an alley between 2 buildings. The man followed, thinking he had cornered his prey. But Lisa was not helpless. Growing up on frontier colonies had taught her how to take care of herself. When the killer stepped into the alley, Lisa was waiting with a plasma torch from the engineering shop. The bright flame made him stop and reconsider his approach. "You're here for me," Lisa said. It was not a question. "Vincent Kane sends his regards," the killer replied, drawing his weapon. Before he could fire, a massive shape dropped from the building above. Kazeth landed between Lisa and the killer like a falling shadow. His claws were extended and his scars blazed with blue light. The killer fired at Kazeth, but the shots bounced off his armor. Kazeth moved faster than the human eye could follow. One swipe of his claw sent the killer's weapon flying. Another swipe ended the man's life. Lisa stood frozen, plasma torch still in her hand. She had just watched Kazeth kill someone to protect her. "There are 4 more," Kazeth said, turning to face her. "They came to finish what I was hired to do. You saved me. Yes. Why? Kazeth looked at her with his yellow eyes. The blue glow from his scars cast strange shadows on the alley walls. Because you called my scars beautiful, he said simply. Across the colony, alarms began to ring. Jake Morrison's voice came over the speakers. Security alert. Armed intruders in the colony. All residents report to safe zones immediately. The other killers had revealed themselves. Gunfire echoed from the main square. People screamed and ran for cover. We have to help them, Lisa said. We should run, Kazeth replied. Get you to safety. Lisa shook her head. These are my people. I will not abandon them. She ran toward the sounds of battle. Kazeth cursed in his native language and followed her. The main square was chaos. 2 of Kane's killers had taken positions behind overturned vehicles and were firing at anyone who moved. Jake Morrison and his security team were pinned down behind the fountain in the center of the square. Marcus Bell and the 4th killer were advancing on the security team, moving from cover to cover. In minutes, they would have Jake and his men surrounded. The colony's weapons are in the security building, Lisa told Kazeth. If we can get there, we can arm the defenders. Kazeth studied the situation. The security building was across the square, in full view of the killers. Getting there would mean running through open ground while being shot at. Stay here, he told Lisa. I will get the weapons. No. We go together or not at all. Kazeth looked at her determined face and knew he could not change her mind. This small human woman had more courage than most warriors he had known. Stay close to me, he said. Do not stop running no matter what happens. They burst from the alley at full speed. The killers saw them immediately and opened fire. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air around them. Kazeth used his body to shield Lisa, letting the shots hit his armor instead of her flesh. A bolt caught Kazeth in the shoulder, spinning him around. Blue blood ran down his arm, but he kept moving. Another shot grazed his leg, but he did not fall. They reached the security building and crashed through the door. Lisa ran to the weapons locker while Kazeth covered the entrance. She grabbed plasma, rifles, and ammunition, loading everything she could carry. Jake, Lisa called over her communicator. Weapons coming your way. She and Kazeth ran back into the square, dodging gunfire. They reached the fountain and distributed weapons to Jake's team. Now the fight was more even, but Kazeth was bleeding badly. The shots he had taken to protect Lisa were serious wounds. His glowing scars were dim and his movements were slower. You're hurt, Lisa said, seeing the blue blood on his armor. I will live, Kazeth replied, but his voice was weaker than before. The battle raged for another hour. One by one, Kane's killers fell to the combined firepower of the colonists and Kazeth's deadly skills. Marcus Bell was the last to die, taken down by Jake Morrison's precise shooting. When the shooting stopped, the colony was quiet except for the moans of the wounded. Several colonists had been hurt, but none had died. They had survived thanks to Kazeth's warning and protection. Lisa knelt beside Kazeth, who sat slumped against the fountain. His wounds were bleeding freely now. We need to get you to the medical bay, she said. Why? Kazeth asked. I am your enemy. I came here to kill you. No, Lisa said firmly. You came here as my enemy. But you are not my enemy anymore. You are my friend. Friend. Another word Kazeth had never applied to himself. In his long life, he had never had a friend. Jake Morrison approached them cautiously. He had seen Kazeth fight and knew what the alien was capable of. Is he one of the killers? Jake asked. No, Lisa said. He's the one who saved us all. Jake looked confused, but he helped Lisa get Kazeth to the medical center. As the colony's doctor treated his wounds, Kazeth thought about what had happened. He had betrayed his employer. He had saved his target instead of killing her. He had fought alongside the people he was supposed to murder, and for the first time in his life he felt like he had done something right. Outside the medical center, Lisa sat in the waiting area. People came by to thank her and ask about the wounded alien who had saved them. She told them all the same thing. His name is Kazeth. He is beautiful and he is my friend. Kazeth woke up in a hospital bed 3 days later. Soft white light filled the room instead of the harsh shadows he was used to. For a moment he forgot where he was. Then he saw Lisa sitting in a chair beside his bed, reading a book. "You stayed," he said, his voice rough from sleep. "Of course I stayed, that's what friends do." There was that word again. Friend. Kazeth was still learning what it meant. "Vincent Kane will send more killers," he warned. Lisa smiled and held up a data pad. "Actually, he will not. While you were sleeping, I sent all the evidence about his illegal operations to the Galactic Trade Commission. They arrested him this morning. His entire organization is finished." Kazeth stared at her. "You solved the problem." "We solved it. Together." The doctor, a kind older woman named Helen Cross, came in to check on Kazeth's wounds. She had been nervous, at first about treating an alien killer, but Lisa had convinced her to help. "The wounds are healing well," Dr. Cross said. "But you lost a lot of blood. You need rest." "I do not rest," Kazeth replied. "You do now," Lisa said firmly. "Doctor's orders." Over the next week, something amazing happened. People from the colony began visiting Kazeth. At first, they came out of curiosity. They had never seen a Drakmori before, but they stayed because Lisa had told them he was a friend. Jake Morrison brought him books about human culture. "Thought you might want to understand us better," the security chief said. An old miner named Pete Williams brought him soup. "My grandmother's recipe," Pete said, "fixes everything." Children drew pictures of Kazeth's glowing scars and gave them to him. In their artwork, the scars looked like beautiful patterns and designs. Kazeth kept every drawing. He had never owned anything that was not a weapon before. But the most important visitor was the colony's leader, Mayor Sarah Blake. She was a tough woman who had built New Arizona from nothing. "Lisa tells me you saved us all," Mayor Blake said. "I killed people in your colony," Kazeth replied. "You killed people who came here to murder us. There's a difference." She sat down in the chair Lisa usually occupied. "What are your plans now?" she asked. "Your employer is dead. Your old life is over." Kazeth had been thinking about this. He could not return to being a killer, but what else could he do? He only knew how to bring death. "I do not know," he admitted. "Well, if you want to, stay here. We could use someone with your skills. The outer colonies can be dangerous places. Pirates, raiders, wild animals. We need protectors, not killers." "What is the difference?" Mayor Blake smiled. "Killers destroy. Protectors preserve. Lisa seems to think you figured out which one you want to be." That evening, Lisa brought Kazeth dinner and sat with him while he ate. She had done this every day since he woke up. "The mayor offered me a job," Kazeth said. "I know," she asked. "Me about it first." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that you're not the same person who came here 2 weeks ago. That person was a killer, but you're something different now." "What am I now?" Lisa looked at his glowing scars, still beautiful in her eyes. "You're someone who chooses to protect instead of destroy. Someone who stands between danger and innocent people. Someone who called me his friend." "I have never had a friend before." "Well, now you have lots of them." Kazeth looked out the window at the colony below. People were going about their normal lives. Children played in the streets. Workers came home from the mines. Families ate dinner together. It was a peaceful scene. A scene worth protecting. "If I stay," Kazeth said, "people will be afraid of me. They know what I am, what I was." "Some will be afraid at first," Lisa agreed. "But fear fades. Kindness lasts forever." "You are not afraid of me." "No. I saw past the scary outside to the person underneath. Others will too, given time." 6 months later, Kazeth Vorn officially became the head of security for New Arizona Colony. The Galactic Council was shocked when they learned that the galaxy's most wanted killer had given up his life of violence. Some people said it was impossible. Killers did not change. Monsters stayed monsters. But the people of New Arizona knew better. They had seen Kazeth rescue trapped miners from cave-ins. They had watched him play gently with their children, careful not to hurt them with his massive claws. They had seen him risk his life to protect theirs without asking for anything in return. The glowing scars that had once marked him as a killer now marked him as their guardian. The children especially loved them, calling them star maps and constellation tattoos. Kazeth learned many things in his new life. He learned that strength could be used to build instead of destroy. He learned that courage meant standing up for others, not just yourself. He learned that family was not just blood, but the people who chose to care about you. Most importantly, he learned that everyone deserved a second chance, even someone like him. On quiet evenings, Kazeth and Lisa would sit on the observation deck looking up at the real stars. The glowing scars on Kazeth's skin pulsed gently in rhythm with his heartbeat. "Do you ever regret it?" Lisa asked one night. "Giving up your old life?" Kazeth thought about this. His old life had been simple. Hunt, kill, move on. No complications, no friendships, no one who cared if he lived or died. "No," he said finally. "My old life was not living, it was just existing. And now?" Kazeth looked at the colony below, where people lived and laughed and loved without fear because he stood guard over them. "Now I understand what you meant about finding beauty in dark places," he said. "You found it in me." Lisa smiled and took his huge clawed hand in her small human one. "The beauty was always there, Kazeth. You just needed someone to show you how to see it." Above them, the stars shone down on New Arizona Colony. And below, the galaxy's most dangerous killer slept peacefully, dreaming of protection instead of death, of building instead of destroying, of the woman who had seen constellations where others saw only scars. In the end, the most powerful weapon in the galaxy was not a gun or a blade or a bomb. It was something much simpler and much stronger. It was kindness, and kindness, once given freely, could change everything. Even the heart of a killer. Even the fate of worlds, even the cold, dark spaces between the stars could become beautiful when seen through the eyes of someone who chose to love instead of hate, to protect instead of destroy, to see light where others saw only darkness. The galaxy's most dangerous killer had found his redemption in the most unlikely place, in the gentle words of a human woman who called his scars beautiful and offered him the one thing he had never known he needed. "Friend,"